Have you ever felt that you're living a life others have planned for you? Perhaps right now you're trapped in a routine that doesn't excite you, or maintaining relationships that drain your energy. And you know it. You feel it every morning when you wake up, that small inner voice telling you that you deserve more, that something greater is waiting for you. Carl Jung, one of the most revolutionary thinkers in modern psychology, had a phrase that always gives me chills. Most people don't live their own lives, but the lives of other people. Think about that for a moment. Are you living your life, or the life someone else designed for you? Today we're going to embark on a deep journey into the heart of Jungian philosophy. Don't settle for less. Aspire to your personal greatness. This isn't just another superficial motivational message. It's an invitation to awaken, to reconnect with your authentic self, and to discover the transformative power that happens when you finally choose yourself. Modern society is built on a system that keeps us distracted, busy, and quite frankly, disconnected from our essence. Every day we're bombarded with messages about what we should be, how we should look, what we should achieve. And amidst all that noise, we lose touch with our inner voice, with that innate compass that knows exactly who we are and what we need to feel fulfilled. Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." This is the essence of what we'll talk about today, awakening to your true potential by looking inward, not outward. Let me ask you something I want you to consider honestly. When was the last time you made a genuinely personal decision? Not motivated by fear of rejection, not to please others, not because it was sensible or safe, but because it deeply resonated with your being. If you struggle to remember, you're not alone. Most of us have learned to silence that inner voice, to ignore our intuitions, to distrust our own instincts. Jung understood this dilemma deeply. He saw that the greatest obstacle to our personal fulfillment wasn't external circumstances, but our disconnection from the unconscious, that deep part of ourselves that contains our true wisdom. For Jung, the unconscious isn't simply a repository of traumas and repressed memories, as Freud suggested. It's a source of creativity, intuition, and purpose. It's where your personal greatness resides. When we ignore the signals from our unconscious, when we repress our true desires or silence our intuitions, we're rejecting vital parts of ourselves. And that rejection has consequences. Jung described how these rejected aspects don't disappear, but become what he called the shadow, those parts of ourselves we've denied, repressed, or feared. The shadow isn't inherently negative. It contains both our weaknesses and our unrecognized strengths. But when we ignore it, when we pretend it doesn't exist, it exerts an unconscious power over us. We find ourselves sabotaging our own efforts, repeating destructive patterns, or living with a constant feeling that something is missing. Think about those times when you've said yes when you really wanted to say no. Those occasions when you've sacrificed your dreams to keep the peace or please others. Those moments when you've ignored your intuition only to regret it later. Every time we do this, we're rejecting a part of ourselves. We're sending the message to our inner being that its needs, its desires, its instincts aren't valid or important. Jung warned us about this danger. He understood that we can only achieve our true personal greatness when we dare to integrate all parts of ourselves, even those that make us uncomfortable or that we've learned to hide. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people, he said. This knowledge isn't optional if we seek an authentic life. It's essential. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel stuck, as if you're living the same experience over and over again? Jung described this as the result of not paying attention to the lessons your unconscious is trying to teach you. When we ignore these lessons, the unconscious finds ways to capture our attention. Through recurring dreams, meaningful synchronicities, or even personal crises that force us to stop and reassess. These crises, the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, an unexpected illness, may seem like disasters in the moment, but from a Jungian perspective, they're often disguised opportunities, There are moments when life is telling us, enough is enough. It's time to listen. It's time to change. It's time to choose yourself. Choosing yourself. What does that really mean? It's not selfishness, as many might think. It's not about ignoring others' needs or living in a disconnected way. On the contrary, Jung taught us that only when we choose ourselves, when we honor our inner truth, can we offer something genuine to the world. Think of it this way. If you constantly sacrifice your needs for those of others, what are you really offering? An exhausted, resentful, and empty version of yourself. But when you nurture yourself, when you honor your own boundaries and values, when you live from your authenticity, you offer the world a full, vibrant, and powerful version of who you are. This is the foundation of self-love, according to Jung. It's not narcissism, but an honest recognition of who you are, with your strengths and weaknesses, your light and shadows. It's understanding that you can't truly love or serve others if you don't first love and respect yourself. There's a fundamental concept in Jungian psychology known as individuation. It's the process of consciously integrating all parts of yourself, your persona, the social mask you wear, your shadow, the repressed aspects of your being, your anima or animus, the feminine or masculine aspects within you, and finally, yourself, your true wholeness. This process isn't easy. It requires courage to face parts of yourself you've avoided, humility to recognize your patterns, and compassion to embrace all your facets. But when you embark on this journey, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to feel more complete, more integrated. Decisions become clearer, relationships more authentic, and your life purpose more evident. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who your parents expected you to be, not who society pressures you to be, but who you truly are at your deepest core. This is the true personal greatness I'm referring to in the title of this video. It's not about fame, wealth, or status. It's about the greatness of living an authentic life, a life that resonates with your true nature. But how do we begin this journey toward our personal greatness? How do we learn to choose ourselves in a world that constantly pushes us to conform? First, we need to develop a conscious relationship with our unconscious. Jung believed that our dreams are a direct path to this part of ourselves. Paying attention to your dreams, writing them down, reflecting on them, can provide you with profound insights into what you truly desire and need. But it's not just dreams that speak to us. Our emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones, are powerful messengers. When you feel anxiety, resentment, frustration, or even chronic boredom, your psyche is telling you that something isn't aligned. Instead of suppressing these emotions or distracting yourself from them, let them guide you. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What need isn't being met? What part of me is asking for attention? Another powerful tool is regular introspection. Jung greatly valued time dedicated to reflection and contemplation. In our fast-paced world, we rarely give ourselves the luxury of simply being, of listening to our deepest thoughts without distractions. Yet it's in those moments of stillness that the most important truths often emerge. Dedicate time each day to be with yourself. It can be through meditation, journal writing, art, or simply sitting quietly in nature. The important thing is to create a space where you can hear your inner voice without the constant external noise. It's also crucial to examine your relationships. Jung believed that our relationships are mirrors that reflect parts of ourselves, including those we don't consciously recognize. People who provoke intense emotions in us, whether attraction or rejection, are often activating unconscious content within us. Ask yourself, what patterns repeat in my relationships? Do I surround myself with people who honor who I truly am, or with those who reinforce my old insecurities? Am I in relationships out of fear of loneliness, or because I genuinely flourish in them? One of the clearest signs that you're living below your potential is the feeling that something is missing, even when externally everything seems fine. You may have the right job, the right partner, the life everyone envies, and yet feel an inexplicable emptiness. Jung understood this feeling. He saw that many people who were successful by external standards were deeply unsatisfied internally. Because true success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by how faithfully you live according to your own nature. Remember the last time you did something that made you lose track of time? That feeling of being completely absorbed, where hours pass like minutes. Jung would call this being in tune with yourself. Those moments are valuable clues about your true nature. They're not coincidences or frivolous indulgences. They're glimpses of your authentic potential. Following these impulses, these calls of the soul, requires courage, especially when they don't seem to make sense according to conventional logic. Jung himself made decisions that seemed irrational to outside eyes. He abandoned his prestigious academic career, built a stone tower with his own hands to connect with his unconscious, spent years creating his Red Book with no intention of publishing it. But these seemingly illogical actions were fundamental to his own process of individuation. What impulses have you ignored in your own life? What dreams have you postponed because they seemed impractical or because you feared others' judgment? What parts of yourself have you silenced for fear of being too much? It's important to understand that choosing yourself doesn't mean the path will be easy. In fact, Jung warned that the individuation process often involves facing what he called the dark night of the soul, periods of confusion, doubt, and inner struggle. But it's precisely through these struggles that we find our strength. He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens, Jung said. And awakening can be painful. It means clearly seeing where we've been deceiving ourselves, where we've sold our authenticity for acceptance, where we've chosen safety over growth. But it's also incredibly liberating, because when we stop pretending, when we stop fighting against our own nature, we access a source of energy and creativity that was previously blocked. Jung observed that many psychological problems, anxiety, depression, addictions, are often symptoms of an unlived life. They're the result of repressing our true nature for so long that our being finds other ways to express itself, usually destructive ones. If you're experiencing these symptoms, consider the possibility that they're not pointing to something wrong with you, but rather to something unattended, something begging to be recognized and integrated. Jung firmly believed in the wisdom of symptoms, that they contain important information about parts of ourselves we've denied. What would happen if instead of fighting against these feelings, you saw them as messengers? What would they be trying to communicate to you about your true nature, your true needs? As you begin to listen to these messages, to embrace all parts of yourself, something remarkable begins to happen. The outer world starts to reflect your inner transformation. Jung called this synchronicity, seemingly random events that have a profound meaning and that appear to be synchronized with your internal state. Suddenly, the right people appear in your life. Opportunities that resonate with your true nature present themselves. Blocks that seemed insurmountable begin to dissolve. Not because the universe is magically conspiring in your favor, but because when you act from your authenticity, you're more attentive and receptive to what truly resonates with you. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When you consciously integrate all parts of yourself, you're no longer a victim of fate. You become a co-creator of your life. Think about the people you deeply admire, not the celebrities or public figures you barely know, but those people whose lives have directly touched yours. Probably what you admire in them isn't their external success, but their authenticity, their integrity, their way of living faithfully according to their values. Jung would say that what you really admire in these people is their individuation process, their journey toward their fullness. And the wonderful thing is that this same process is available to you. You don't need to be a genius or have special circumstances. You just need the courage to embark on the journey. That courage begins with small daily decisions, being willing to say no when something doesn't resonate with you, even if you fear disappointing others. being willing to express your true opinions, even when they differ from the majority. Being willing to follow your curiosity and passion, even when the path isn't clear. As you practice this kind of courage, your confidence in your inner voice will grow. You'll begin to recognize the difference between decisions you make from fear or obligation and those you make from your inner truth. This is the kind of personal authority that Jung greatly valued. It's not about power over others, but power within yourself. The ability to live according to your own values and truth, regardless of external pressures. When you develop this internal authority, something changes in the way others perceive you. They can no longer easily manipulate you with approval or rejection, because your sense of worth no longer depends on them. This is one of the most profound freedoms you can experience. The freedom to be yourself without apologies or justifications. But this path isn't without challenges. One of the hardest tests comes when those close to you react to your transformation. When you begin to establish healthy boundaries, to honor your needs, and to live with greater authenticity, not everyone will celebrate it. Some may feel threatened by your change because it forces them to confront their own lack of authenticity. Others may have invested a lot in the previous version of you, the one who pleased, who conformed, who put their needs last. Your transformation destabilizes that dynamic, and their resistance is natural. Jung understood this phenomenon. He knew that the individuation process often involves re-evaluating and, in some cases, restructuring relationships. Not because you seek conflict, but because you can no longer sustain connections based on false versions of yourself. This doesn't mean you should abandon all your relationships. Many will evolve positively as you become more authentic, but some may not survive your transformation, and that's okay. As Jung said, "I cannot be what I ought to be to everyone else without betraying myself." What's fascinating is that, as some relationships dissolve, new ones emerge. Relationships that resonate with your authentic self, that nurture you instead of draining you, that celebrate your growth instead of resisting it. These new bonds have a different quality. They're not based on dependency or mutual need, but on a genuine recognition and respect for the other's individuality. Jung called this conscious love, a connection that honors both union and separation, that values both closeness and autonomy. This type of relationship is only possible when you've done the inner work of knowing and accepting yourself. As Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. As you progress on your path of individuation, you'll also notice changes in how you relate to your work and life purpose. Jung believed that each person has a unique contribution to make to the world, one that naturally emerges when you live in alignment with your true nature. This contribution doesn't always align with conventional definitions of success or achievement. It can be as simple as bringing a certain quality to your daily interactions, or as complex as revolutionizing an entire field. The important thing isn't the scale, but the authenticity. Jung himself wrote, "The person who looks outward dreams, the person who looks inward awakens." And when you awaken to your true nature, your work in the world becomes a natural expression of who you are, not an obligation or a means to an end. Think about the times when you felt that what you do truly matters, when you felt that deep satisfaction that comes not from external recognition, but from knowing you're offering something genuine to the world. Those moments are glimpses of your authentic purpose. Sometimes, however, finding this purpose requires going through periods of what Jung called the dark night of the soul, times of confusion, emptiness, or loss of meaning. These periods, though painful, are often necessary. They're times of gestation, where old structures crumble to make way for something new. If you're going through such a period now, rest assured that it's not a sign of failure, but potentially of profound transformation. As Jung said, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. What often makes these periods so difficult is our resistance to them. We want immediate clarity, definitive answers, a clearly marked path. But the individuation process is rarely linear or predictable. It requires patience, trust, and a willingness to inhabit uncertainty. Jung understood that this uncertainty, though uncomfortable, is where our greatest potential for growth resides. He wrote, "The future only arrives for those who are open to it. When we let go of our rigid expectations and open ourselves to the unknown, we often discover possibilities we couldn't even imagine before." This brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in Jungian psychology: the idea that our greatest potential often lies precisely in those aspects of ourselves that we most fear or reject. Jung observed that many people spend their lives running from their shadows, projecting their unrecognized aspects onto others, and in the process, missing the opportunity to integrate the gifts those shadows contain. Because the shadow, although it may contain our fears, insecurities, and aspects we've learned to reject, also contains our vitality, our creativity, and our most authentic passions. Often, what we most fear in ourselves is precisely where our greatest potential resides. Think about those qualities you deeply admire in others, but fear to claim for yourself. Maybe it's their ability to set clear boundaries, their uninhibited creative expression, their comfort with visibility or power. Jung would say your fascination with these qualities isn't coincidental. It's an unconscious recognition of potentials within yourself that you haven't yet fully embraced. When you begin to integrate these aspects, you discover resources and strengths you didn't know you had. Your life expands in ways you couldn't foresee, not because you become someone else, but because you allow yourself to be more fully who you already are. This is the true meaning of not settling for less, recognizing that you already carry within you everything you need to live a life of purpose, meaning, and authenticity. You don't need to be fixed or transformed into someone else. You need to be freed to be who you truly are. And this liberation begins with a decision to stop living in the shadow of others' expectations, to stop silencing your truth out of fear or convenience, to stop postponing your life until some future moment when finally everything is right. Jung constantly reminded us that the unlived life is a disease from which one can die. Every day you postpone your authenticity, every day you settle for less than what you know is possible for you, is a day you'll never get back. But he also had a profound optimism about our capacity for change, even after years of living disconnected from our true self. He wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This is perhaps the most liberating affirmation of all, that regardless of your past, regardless of how long you've lived a life that isn't yours, you always have the option to choose yourself now. This moment, right now, can be a turning point. You can continue on the familiar path, the path of what's expected, the path that keeps you small but safe, or you can choose the path of your truth, the path that leads you toward your personal greatness. It's not a choice you make just once, but one you must reaffirm every day in small and big decisions. It's the choice to listen to your inner voice, even when it whispers something inconvenient. It's the choice to honor your deepest values, even when it costs you. It's the choice to move toward what gives you life, even when the path isn't clear. Jung understood that this choice isn't easy. It takes courage to face our shadows, question our limiting beliefs, and risk being seen as we truly are. But he also knew it's the only path to a life truly worth living. Your vision will become clear, he wrote, only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Your awakening begins now, with the recognition that you deserve more than a half-lived life, more than relationships that drain your energy, more than work that stifles your spirit. You deserve a life that honors the wholeness of who you are, with all your complexities, contradictions, and infinite possibilities. This is the central message I want to leave you with today. Don't settle for less. Don't settle for a diluted version of yourself, for dreams cut down to fit others' expectations, for love that asks you to be less than who you are. Your personal greatness isn't in being perfect or in achieving some impossible ideal. It's in being perfectly you, with your light and shadows, your strengths and vulnerabilities, your wisdom and your wounds. It's in living from your center, not from your fears or conditioning. In a world that constantly pushes you to conform, to fit in, to follow the established path, choosing yourself is the most revolutionary act you can do, not just for you, but for all those your authenticity will inspire and free to do the same. As Jung said, meaning makes many things endurable, perhaps everything. When you live from your truth, even challenges acquire meaning, even losses have purpose, because they're in service to your evolution toward a more authentic and fulfilled life. If this message has resonated with you, if it has touched something deep within you, I invite you not to leave it simply as an inspiring idea. Let it be the catalyst for real change in your life. Start by asking yourself every day, what would it mean to choose myself today? What small step can I take toward my truth? What boundary do I need to establish? What inner voice have I been ignoring? And if you feel this message might resonate with someone you know, share this video with them. Sometimes, all we need to take that first step toward our authenticity is to know we're not alone on the journey. Leave your comment below sharing which part of this message resonated most with you, or what change you're committed to making after hearing it. Your vulnerability and courage might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content that supports you on your journey toward your personal greatness, and hit the bell to not miss the upcoming videos where we'll explore these topics more deeply. And remember, as Jung said, you cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning, for what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true at evening will have become a lie. Once you recognize your potential for authenticity and fulfillment, you can no longer settle for less. Your journey toward your personal greatness has already begun. And though there will be challenges along the way, there will also be a joy, freedom, and sense of purpose that only comes from living in alignment with your deepest truth. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I encourage you not to let this be just another inspiring video, but the beginning of a real transformation in your life. Because the world needs your light, your authenticity, your personal greatness. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue this journey together. Until then, remember, don't settle for less. Aspire to your personal greatness. Choose yourself. Everything else will flow from there.